Hey everybody, Mike,
Dave.
Here we are again, Mike and Dave show. Today, we're gonna have a little chat about fueling your engine. I mean, this right here is carburetor. This was from long ago. In my world, it wasn't that long ago, but in generation today, it is a long time ago. These things really went out of date by 1986, 1987, was things were really starting to go to fuel injection. Different kind of fuel injections. Carburetors, they did them in 1 barrels and 2 barrels and 4 barrels. And you could have a 6-pack of them. You could have 2 4 barrels. You know, as many as you want. You know, at the time you jetted them. This is a basic Holley style carburetor. It's actually a quick fuel and built by Holley. Same design, everything's the same. We can jet both the front primaries and the secondaries. Otherwise, what do you think, Dave, about carburetors?
I love carburetors myself, but then again, I grew up on carburetors. So, and I also lived through the horrific issues of the beginnings of the fuel injection era as well. So, at least with a carburetor, you can actually put a cam or something on a vehicle, make it go fast. You can't really do that with fuel injection, at least the first 2 generations anyway.
Yeah, the problem with fuel injection now is that you got to be a computer nerd in order to make your fuel injection work with a big cam. So, it gets a little trickier these days. Old days, shove a big cam in, shove a big carburetor on, jet the thing, rock and roll, making power. Getting fuel in, fuel and air in, and exhaust out. That was the name of the game. So it sure was much simpler then.
And they still make a lot of horsepower because they're still in most racing circuits, top field tracks still use carburetors.
Right, I mean they're using basically a toilet.
Yep.
You know, they just flush it down the hole. But there's other carburetors, basically it was a square box.
Yep.
And just like a toilet, they just drop fuel and air down the hole.
That was called a Predator.
So it was called a Predator. Good call. They built different models through the years. They went spread bore. This is an actual square flange carburetor. Meant each hole was exactly the same size. It was called a square flange. So that's what I know about them. Oh, I know a little bit more now because I was born and raised with carburetors. Dad taught me how to work on carburetors, and I know a lot about them. We get to play with them a lot. So I enjoy them, still race them. A lot of series are still racing carburetors because the cost. Cost of fuel injection today gets expensive. And that's why we're kind of stuck with carburetors. We're kind of old school, but fuel injection is still cool. Nothing wrong with it. It is way more efficient than it was when you had a carburetor.
Yeah, you know, paying $30,000 to put a fuel injection system on a race truck just really kind of...
Yeah, that does kind of suck. It gets a little wicked these days.
Even the most expensive carburetor is only $1,500.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, we can go over and first generation. We'll show you a little about first generation fuel injection.
Yep. The old GM TBI.
Here we are over at this 80s Chevy, early 80s Chevy, mid 80s Chevy, I guess you could call it. What do you think of this thing, Dave?
Simplicity, the key here. GM did actually pretty decent job on their first generation fuel injection, basically like a 2-barrel. Your basic intake manifold is real simple, single O2.
I mean, looked like a carburetor, kind of.
Kind of.
You know, kind of looked like a carburetor. But if you look under there, you get 2 fuel injectors in the top of it. Basically, they called it a throttle body fuel injection. Similar to a carburetor, but they actually just put 2 injectors in the top of it. Worked pretty well. I mean, it actually worked very well. Power-wise, yeah, they're pretty hard to make power with.
But they're still used today in a lot of applications, especially for people that are going wheeling, and they work great on your inline 6s for your Toyota FJ40s. A lot of your Jeep guys are running this particular system because they work really, really well for something that in any altitude situation or low altitude situation, climbing up and down, getting on the side of a cliff or something like that. They work really, really well. And they're not a powerhouse by any means, but the simplicity of them and keeping things running, they work really well.
Yeah, pretty good unit, really. You know, but in the day, hey, we're in the 80s. You know, 80 was fuel crunch.
You remember?
Nobody wanted horsepower anyway. Everybody was looking for mileage, and they didn't get that either.
No.
You know, but they did get fuel injection, so you know, it was a good change. But
they were easy to start in a cold morning, though.
Yeah, you bet. You go out and fire this thing right up. You didn't have to pump the gas 3 times and set the choke and hope the choke set, and then see if your carburetor engine ran. But you know, and today everything's moved up, and everything today you look at all multi-port fuel injection. there's a fuel injector in every cylinder, and they only use intake for air itself. Fuel goes directly into the heads, basically, is where it's going into, and even right now they're injecting directly into cylinders. So efficiency gets more and more and more, and hey, I guess we're out of carburetors, you know. But I still like them. I still like to play with them.
You know, you figure your computer in your car is smarter than the computer you use in your house to do your bills or do anything else.
Yeah, it is today, man. It's crazy. Crazy how many electronics it takes to actually run a car today. But they are very efficient. They make tons of power. They make way more power than these old motors. And just efficiency, simple as that.
Efficient to 350, 400,000 miles on your typical gas motor these days. That's
Well,
a far cry from what we did.
These motors in the day were good for 100, 150. That was about it. That's about all they're good for. So today, you know, 300,000 miles ain't that big a deal.
Nope.
So we don't make power. We like our carburetors. You know, unless you've got the technology and the wiring and the ECMs to tune into fuel injection. When I run a new fuel injector truck myself, ProCharge, it's much easier to actually supercharge or turbo or run nitrous on a injected motor because it's more efficient. You can make it work even better. So, but I mean, that's all I got to say about that.
Blow-through carburetors are cool though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because you got to run a blower, you got to run a carburetor, you got to run a blow-through carburetor.
Right, which is tricky.
Yeah. But it also makes it more fun.
Yeah. So that's our segment on carburetors today.
And it's
Me and Dave, we're still hanging out down the shop, working on carburetors and fuel injection. Still pro charging, doing lift kits, bumpers, winches. We like to get into everything.
Do it all.
You know? Yep. We like to go wheeling and then have some power to go wheeling too. So we get into everything.
Yeah, it's more fun.
Carburetor's a little trickier to do it with, but we still do it. We like old school. So.
Subscribe to the Mike and Dave Show.
Subscribe, guys. Mike and Dave Show. We'll be back next month.
Ask us some questions. Send us some questions. We'll answer them for you.
We'll answer some questions for you. Let us know. Take care.